YouTube, I'm back with another video. I'm finally gonna be doing a Magic the Gathering deck profile, which I haven't done for months. But usually when I do a new deck profile, it's mainly an update of my previous build and to showcase some of the changes that I made, just to give the deck a chance to be able to compete. So we are going to proceed with the deck profile, starting off with our creature. We're maxing out on Bloodtith Harvester. For those who aren't aware, when it enters the battlefield, you create a blood token, and you can use the blood token to pay 1 mana, tap it, discard a card, sacrifice the artifact, draw a card. And you can also use Bloodtith Harvester by sacrificing it. Target creature gets minus X until end of turn, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So what that means is that you can only activate it during your turn, and a creature your opponent controls, they lose such and such amount. So basically X means 1, so if it's referring to twice the number of blood tokens you control, it means that if you just have one blood token, essentially they lose 2 power, 2 toughness. If there's 2, they lose 4 toughness, 4 power. Same thing, 3 blood tokens, they lose 6 power, they lose 6 toughness. So you got to keep track of the converted number. And obviously we're going to max out on Daemogoth Titan. And although his ability may be a hindrance, basically if you want to attack with this card, or block, you gotta sacrifice a creature. So when I showcase you some of the cards, you're gonna understand the logic behind it, because again, this is a creature with 11 power, 10 toughness, and although it requires at least possibly 4 black or 4 green, we have ways of being able to draw into our lands and be able to make use of Daemogoth, because whether it might be to attack, but there are other ways you can be able to contribute with this power, especially if you're using the effects of your spells or cards that will allow him to be able to attack more or defend more. And a new card that I added to the deck, I'm utilizing playset of Draconautics Engineer. I feel like this will help make the deck efficient and be able to synergize with Daemogoth, because he has the ability Exhaust. You pay 1 red, other creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Put a +1/1 counter on this creature. And the good thing is this card does not tap to use his ability, so you can use it more than once. And he also has the ability Exhaust, where you can play 3 colors mana, 1 red, to create a 4/4 red dinosaur dragon creature token fly. So in itself is very powerful. Although the effect does take time to be able to summon a creature token, but it helps you distribute a strong creature that not only is a dinosaur dragon but has flying. So it can be able to hover above the light. It can hover against monsters. So if the only way they can block this character, that creature, either if they have something flying or reach, and you can be able to use this ability more than once without having to tap. So it is not affected by summoning sickness. For Flamewake Phoenix, very important card. It synergizes well with this deck, simply because we're playing a lot of creatures that have a power 4, and helps be able to make use of your game Daemogoth Titan, which I was going back to. So essentially it's a Phoenix with flying and haste, and it's forced to attack. But at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may pay 1 red. If you do, return Flamewake Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is very essential, although it's forced to attack. The moment your combat starts, you pay the red, and if you have Daemogoth Titan out, you can immediately sacrifice the Phoenix and or attack with Titan. So you're always going to be able to attack with Titan as well as be able to defend with him. Although yes, the strategy can be situational, it does take time. But if you can get this off in time, then yeah, Daemogoth Daemogoth becomes a massive threat. And a big creature that we're playing, we're just playing 2 copies of Galta Primal Hunger to make use of his ability, since it requires converted mana, less to cast, where X is the total power of creatures you control, and he has trample. So that's the reason why we have Daemogoth to be able to summon Galta as well. On top of that, he's a legendary creature, so having 2 helps just in case you lose the other one or you don't see it on time. And on top of that, he has a power of 12 and a toughness of 12, so not only can he be able to like do massive damage to your opponent, but he also has enough toughness where he can get protection from minusing toughness. For our last creature, we're playing Rekindling Phoenix. I'm not sure whether there's any other optimal cards I could use, but yeah, some P position, since I have some high costs, it does take up too much mana, but at the same time it does serve a purpose, because not only is Rekindling Phoenix flying, but it's to make use of your Daemogoth Titan, because you need something to sacrifice it and then be able to allow it to come back after. So whenever Rekindling Phoenix dies, you create a 0/1 red elemental creature token with, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature and return target creature named Rekindling Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. So on top of that, like not only you can use it to be able to sack with your Daemogoth Titan, it'll eventually come back and it'll be able to attack on your next turn. But there's another card that lets you get this massive combo, and you can have as many as you want, as long as you be able to cast Rekindling Phoenix. So the moment it dies, you don't have to be able to repay its mana in order to summon it back. So you'll start to see the logic here, you guys. As we're starting off with enchantments, we're playing 4 copies of Garruk's Uprising, which we're maxing out on. Whenever this card enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. All creatures you control have trample, so essentially giving your Daemogoth Titan trample, and you want to be able to see it. Although you may not see both at the same time easily, but you want to increase your odds. But at the same time, it synergizes with a lot of cards in our deck, because whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield, under your control you draw a card, and it's not once per turn. So having cards like Dragonics, Engineer, Rekindling Phoenix, it helps make the most out of this card, since you can be able to play a creature with 4 more than once. And let's say you have 2 Phoenix, let's say 2 of your Rekindling Phoenix dies, and you bring them out from your graveyard to the battlefield by sacrificing the red elemental creature token. That in itself, if you have 1 and you're bringing back 2, you get to draw 2 cards. Let's say you have 2 Garruks and then you bring back 2 your Rekindling Phoenix. Essentially you draw 4. Same thing with 3, you draw 6. Same thing with 4, you draw 8. So it keeps basically giving you tons of access to your resources, and your hand keeps piling. And although eventually you might discard, but this gives you a variety of options, and that's the one thing I do like about the Phoenix, essentially because you don't have to pay it to revive it. And with the Engineers, that if you have enough mana, you'll be able to make the most out of this card, be able to play more than 1 creature, and be able to draw a card essentially. So Garruk's one of those cards that makes the deck more interesting, as well as heavily viable in its own right. Because with Garruk's Uprising, you have other cards that be able to like retrieve 4 creatures in itself. Yeah, it is mandatory. So going into our instance, we're playing 4 Fatal Push, no exceptions. Again, very powerful removal card. You expect to see it simply because you want to be sure, just in case your opponent's playing small creatures, just to like get rid of their like offense, defense, to be able to like destroy their coverage. As you guys can pretty much read up, on how it works. Again, very popular card, but I feel like it is a very essential card, especially if you need a deck that wants to play coverage, and always you're going to be expecting creatures just in case. Because how else would you be able to do combat, or would you be able to like deal damage to your opponent? For other instant spell, this is more of a like dual card essentially, because it not only is it an instant, but you can treat this card as land, so it is very flexible. Rather than just playing Fling, it's either you can treat this card as either Kazul's Fury or Kazul's Cliff. So essentially how this works is that like if you don't see your big creatures on time to deal massive damage by using their toughness, because as an additional cost you gotta sacrifice a creature and you gotta pay 2 colors, 1 red. Kazul's Fury would be able to deal the sacrifice creature power to any target, whether it be a creature or your opponent. So it's one of those flex spots where you have that choice where if you don't see your big creatures on time, you can always tap it as a land just in case. So it actually opens opportunities for you. Like if you if you do have your Daemogoth Titan on the field, then that's the time you use Kazul's Fury. But if not, you just set up Kazul's Cliff. So we're going straight into our lands. Obviously max out Blackleaf Cliffs. Really strong early game, because if you don't control that many lands, it enters the battlefield untapped unless you control 2 or few other lands, and it gives you red and black mana. 3 Blood Crypt, very important card, because not only is it a swamp or mountain, but you could pay 2 life to keep it untapped, and it allows you to play 1 red, 1 black. 1 Blooming March, since again it is a Jin deck that we're utilizing. It's similar to Blackleaf's Cliffs, but instead it allows us to add us 1 green, 1 black. Boseiju, who endures. It is a legendary land, which is very nifty, because you're using it more than just to tap for green mana, but you can use its channel ability where you pay 1 colorless, 1 green, you discard Boseiju, who endures, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land an opponent controls, and they may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, and they put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. So yeah, this is in case there might be a problematic artifact enchantment on the field, and if whenever you need to use it, by all means be able to pay the mana cost, but at the same time it's like just in case for an extra green, but just in case you know there's a problem card, you can always choose to discard it just to get rid of the problem. So we're also playing Copperline Gorge, again same thing with Blackleaf Cliffs, but it allows you to add for 1 red, 1 green. 4 Dragon Skull Summit, since I know we're playing a lot of swamp, mountain stuff, and we have a lot of access to those cards, and again being able to add 1 black and red in itself is very important. So I cut some of the basic lands. I'm just playing 1 forest so I can make room for other important cards, and since we're already playing enough lands, and be able to see into more like colorful lands, I'll be able to make the most out of the cards in our deck, so we'll be able to use our colors efficiently. And the same thing goes for 1 mountain. We're playing 1 Overgrown Tomb, again very important since it's also swamp and forest, and allows us to add 1 green, 1 black, and essentially another Blood Crypt, since you can pay 2 life to keep it untapped. 2 Rootbound Crag, similar to Dragon Skull Summit, but this helps just in case because we want to be able to see our red, and I know for a fact I'm playing Daemogoth Titan. Really wouldn't matter in that case because we need green to be able to cover for cards like that we may have a hard time being able to cast, whether it be the Galata, the Grooks. So since we already have enough black, it's like we need to make sure we have efficient colors that can be able to cast other cards that may be able to play an important part in the later in the duel. One stomping ground, again similar to Overgrown Tomb and Blood Crypt, but allows us to add one red, one green, two swamp, and just in case of like cards that we're playing when we go first, as I'm about to showcase, in case you're playing the Fatal Push or like another card we're going to, because speaking of, we're going to be starting off with the Sorceries, which happens to be our last card. Thoughtseize. Target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, then that player discards that card, you lose 2 life. So essentially, it allows you to get access to your opponent's hand, and you trash, or you basically discard a non-basic. Again, very important because it's giving us info on your opponent's hand, and it's being able to like figure out what cards they plan to like start in the beginning of the duel, which is very important. So if you get rid of their starter cards at the beginning, that will make them like slow. It'll basically make them like slow down their plays. They're gonna have to put more thought into their strategy. You're gonna basically put a lot of pressure in delaying them from going to their important strategies. But it's also one of those. It's also heavily impactful because it can go after a card that might be a problem for you later in the duel. So not only does it help like basically disrupt your opponent's opening plays, but it helps you be able to destroy, like get rid of further plays that might be a problem for you in the future, in case they decide to like use it in a like in the last resort of the duel, where that may be the game, that may be the game-winning card, or maybe the card that could prevent you from actually like defeating your opponent. So it just helps you figure out what card you need to dispose of, and it gets rid of pretty much every answer. So just in case if they have something that might hurt you later in the game, or you want to like execute their like strategy by preventing them from like having to be able to go off on the first or second turn, this is the card that you want to see early game. And it's one of those cards that even if you see it later on, it does make a huge difference. I already said way too much about this card. Going to our sideboard, 3 Back to Nature, an instant spell which allows us to destroy all enchantments, and main reason why I'm playing Jun, because it gives us a bunch of answers to a bunch of problem cards or decks that, apologize for the background, the sound in the background, but the reason why I'm playing this build is because I feel like we have a lot of answers to a lot of problem decks or decks that I might not be familiar with. That's why I have Thoughtseize, to be able to like gain knowledge of my opponent's hand strategy, but at the same time figure out which cards I can use in the side deck to be able to get rid of the problem afterwards. Not just with Thoughtseize, but with cards that I can be able to deal with it in case Thoughtseize doesn't go off them, because it only affects cards in the hand. 3 Blast Zone, just again another flexible card. It's a land. It enters the battlefield with a charge counter. You can add 1 colorless, but that's not really the main important part, because you can pay converted mana times 2, put charge counters on Blast Zone, and then you can sacrifice 3 colorless mana, and then tap the Blast Zone, sacrifice Blast Zone, and destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. So essentially, although it may be a slow card, this is in case there might be a card that I don't like on the field that's basically causing me issues. But it's one of those cards that it's just 100% worth seeing. I do like having it not only because it's a land, but I feel like it may not be able to out every card because of the pacing, but if there's a card that comes off early that they were able to cast for low cost, depending on the card's mana, then this card will be easier to play once you are able to get the converted mana, and once Blast Zone equals that amount, you can be able to extinguish that card. So for our other removal, we're playing 2 Bantu's Last Reckoning, destroys all creatures, costs 1 color, 2 black. Unfortunately, lands you control don't tap during the next untap step, but just in case, if I'm playing in something where my opponent tends to swarm a bunch of creatures or tokens, because I personally hate those type of strategies and I'm 100% against it, this will come in important. But I always feel like if you really have an issue with being forced to keep your lands tapped, just limit it to, and just wait when to use it when you feel like your opponent is maxed out on their board, so you can be able to eliminate all those creatures. So for more removal, we're playing Biforce, another essential removal card, because we can pay converted mana as well as 1 red, destroy converted target artifacts. So depending on the number of mana that we pay, besides the red, we destroy that many target artifacts. So because again, I'm not going to be familiar with every single deck. The whole purpose behind the side deck is to make sure I have an out to something that I'm not familiar with, or if I'm matched with a deck that I may be new to, I can always be able to reassure myself, look into my sideboard, and when I go into game 2 or 3, that I always make sure I come prepared, and that the side deck doesn't fail to help. So, in that the cards I have are always going to be of use. Just 1 copy of Crux of Fate, again similar to Bantu's Last Reckoning. You have the option whether you destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-creatures. Unfortunately, it requires 3 colors, 2 black. But this is a case I get tired of using Bantu's Last Reckoning. But this card does not force you to keep your lands tapped on your next turn, but considering how big its cost is, I always feel like 1 is just good enough just in case, because if you see too many, it basically becomes an issue for your mana curve and for your lands, because you may not have 5 on time, because sometimes you would rather have 3 or 4 just in case you need to be able to summon something, or be able to play a card, cast a card that can be actually useful that turn. So if you don't have enough lands and you see too many Crux of Fate, that in itself becomes very crucial, because even if you're close, it won't be enough, because it pretty much stalls you until next turn, or hoping that you draw into another land. But if not, it's the card just essentially becomes worthless in hand, because you can't be able to use it since you don't have enough lands. And for our last card, again, Soul Guide Lantern. It is an artifact card. Still think it's a very important card, because when it enters the battlefield, you exile target card from a graveyard, and it has another option where you can either sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern, exile each opponent's graveyard. If not, it gives you consistency where you pay 1 mana, then you tap Soul Guide Lantern, and then you sack it and draw a card just in case. And hopefully I gave you guys a good explanation how this deck works. Again, it's not for everyone. this is meant to be a fun Pioneer deck. I'm not trying to really take it serious because really isn't any meta play going on. Not too many players are trying to put as much money into this, and that's the whole logic behind my deck building, is that I'm trying to play something unique and fun where I can actually enjoy playing the format. So I don't really see any having to blow a lot of money just to take this game serious, because Pioneers is just meant to be a format where people just enjoy, and you basically be able to like compete with unique fun strategies. As long as the deck synergizes, as long as the deck has a purpose, as long as the deck can actually compete, and you can be able to like play out your deck, and be able to go toe to toe with your opponent, that's really what matters. But like the whole purpose behind this video is for me to guide you guys and to be able to like build your own strategies, be innovative, because that's really what I'm trying to go for. Because imagine just showcasing something that a lot of people do, because they literally copy and paste someone's deck. It doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like worth watching, because you saw the last deck profile. Why would you want to see the same cards when you already saw the last video that had pretty much all those cards? It's like you may not be watching the same video, but you're already familiar with all those cards, where it's like there's no point in even watching, because someone already explained to you how the cards work and how they play the strategy. So it's all about having some sort of innovation and being able to like showcase something different, where there should be like unique strategies that can at least be able to like see play, be able to work, and that someone can actually be fond of something that they were able to incorporate, that they managed to build. Because trust me, building a deck in itself isn't easy, especially if you're trying to like try out your own strategy. But as long as you know that the deck is able to like synergize, and the cards are able to like be able to work with one another, and they somehow contribute, then I see no reason to be disappointed. But it's like, what is the point if people just seeing the same old deck profiles when you're already familiar with a lot of these cards, and you already know what card that they should play? Because like, again, it's one thing if people are playing different builds, or if they're trying different tech choices, because not too many people do that. It's always, if you're playing a deck that people are very familiar with, that a lot of people duel with, it's always good to like be able to like showcase tech cards, just to make the video more appealing to watch. Because watching the same deck profile where people are using the same cards in itself is not exciting to watch. And that's that's really what I'm trying to go for, you guys. And even I know it may not be the best deck, but it's whatever is best for you, and that you can actually not only not regret having to drop too much money, but that you were able to like save up and build something that you were able to create with your own mind and thought and passion. But overall, I'm going way too long in this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to check for more upcoming content in the future. Be sure to check your notifications. Comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.